character is not a great person.
I think you say that because of the moustache. I think if you imagine him without a moustache, he's a pretty great guy.
So right off the bat, how would you classify The Little Stranger? Which is quite a question. It's horror, it's family drama, it's a love story, it's a lot of things.
Yeah, I think it's a drama with a sort of with a ghost story wrapped around it. I mean, and so it's got more. There's a lot more kind of. There's a lot of really strong character stuff and there's very interesting relationships between the different characters, more so than you get in a conventional horror where it's all about just getting to the next jump scare. But there is something odd going on in the film, and what's interesting about it, I think, is the way those two elements mix together. Makes it harder to describe, but I think it makes it an unusual and kind of fresh experience to have if you go and see it.
And as you mentioned, the characters are very different from a lot of the characters that you see on screen. What drew you to these characters in the first place?
That, really. They're so different and weird, and I couldn't work her out. I think there was something that was... I remember I emailed Sarah Waters early on, and I asked her about what was her backstory and what's her sexuality, and because so much in the book is mysterious. It's never really... And it's all through the eyes of Faraday as well, so it's, for certainly something like Caroline, it's subjective. It's not an objective version of who she was. So that was really intriguing to me, and even during it was like, I'm still finding things out about her.
I really wanted to work with Lenny. I read the script and felt deeply uneasy and fascinated all the way through. I couldn't, the word page turner gets thrown around a lot, and there's this one question all the time, which is what's going on in the house? What's making the house sick? What's making the people sick? What's making the people die? And I just thought, being this weird, hurt, emotional, repressed man in the middle of that will be really difficult and really interesting. And then I found out Ruth was doing it, and I said, even still. and I was...
That's how much you wanted to do it.
If we're sure.
Oh, really?
No, and I was thrilled at the notion of working with Ruth as well. I was talking to...
Shove that in there, so you can't say that now.
No, I know. I was talking to Alex Garland while we were making it.
Yeah,
who directed
Alex.
Ex Machina and stuff. And I said, I think Ruth Wilson might be doing the thing. And he said, that's an actress. And he meant that's a really great actress. He didn't just mean that. That's an actress. I said, no, I know, that's what an actress is.
That's a bus driver. That's an actress. That's a dog.
Yeah, and he was right, that's an actress.
He was in a bad place in his life.
Well, and you mentioned the end of the film. I was watching it. I started yelling at the screen at the end of the film.
What were you
I had
saying?
never.
Was there anyone else in the room?
Yeah,
Well, I got a screener. I was lucky.
Oh,
So I was
okay.
in my own house,
Sure.
and my roommates come out of the room, and they immediately said, "What's wrong?" I was like, "This movie," the entire time. So it's different than what a lot of people think it's going to be. What is it that will connect with modern audiences, since it is a period piece?
It's got a lot to say about being alone. It's got a lot to say about wanting love. It's got a lot to say about what it is to want something that may not be good for you. All those things are in there.
You know, because it's set in Britain at this particular point, which is in the late 40s, just after the war, when British society, and still is in a lot of ways, very much about class, but certainly it really was pre-war, and that started to change. And I think there is something in this film about what it is, anywhere where groups of people are distinguished from each other and one group is sort of considered to have somehow more value than the other. That's destructive to people, both to the people who are the victims of that distinction and actually to the people who benefit from it. And I think, like, everything that happens to Faraday and Caroline is somehow traceable back to that odd distinction in British society between people who are the right sort and people who aren't, right? And it's about seeing what happens to this kid ultimately who doesn't come to terms with not being able to have what he wants or being told that he's not good enough for this other life that he perceives as being beautiful and amazing.
And speaking of, power structures and everything, there's a lot going on with the ideas of gender and toxic masculinity, and your character is not a great person at the end of the day, a lot of the time.
Well,
Here we go.
I think you say that because of the moustache. I think if you imagine him without a moustache, he's a pretty great guy.
So what is important to tackle with these themes of kind of gender power structure in this film?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I think, certainly for my character, she always felt like a character trapped in between eras and times. And she'd tasted freedom during the war, and then she was thrust back into a structure and a patriarchy that was suffocating for her. And it is this relationship, it's quite interesting that the sort of, she is trying to strive for her freedom. And I think, I don't know, but he sort of keep trying to box her into that same patriarchy that he wants to be part of. That's really interesting. A theme that I didn't quite realise was in there until we started playing it out, actually, and feeling as Caroline being more and more cornered into just not only what you're born into as a woman at that time and the lack of opportunity you have, but also that the relationships on offer are going to do the same thing to you. So she had very little choice, and I always thought that she would go to Canada and just be on her own. Or I don't know what she'd do there, but she was going to escape and get out and be a woman alone. And it wasn't really an option, and that's what Sarah Waters is saying. Not even that was an option then, and her end was kind of inevitable.
But it's also, I think, it's a particularly strange relationship in lots of ways. But one big element of it is that he is a man at a time when men were in charge, and she is a woman from the upper class at a time when the upper class were seen to be in charge. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's always been the way. Similarly with the man thing. So there's, yeah, exactly. It's a really strange thing where she's got all the power in one setting, and then he's got all the power in a different way. But he's trying to wield his, and she doesn't feel the need to use hers against him, it seems to me, in the film as much. And yet at times it's all she's got to fall back on.
Yeah.
It's very interesting in terms of the power relationships.
So I think we're gonna tell us when Little Stranger comes out and give us
August
all the good
31st.
details. Yeah.
On cinemas near you.
Oh, good. That was good.
That was excellent.
Yeah.
Or a bit further away from you, but you still got...
You should go to the one nearest you.
The one nearest you.
The cinema,
the environment.
At a cinema near you. Isn't that it?
Yeah.
At a cinema near you.
Coming soon to a cinema.
Okay.
But not
Soon
too
to-
far away
Not
from
too far away from you.
unless you live in the woods, in which case,
Yeah,
you know.
there are probably parts
time
where
you're
it
getting your
isn't near
groceries.
you.
You can
Yeah,
probably
fair.
download it, I know.
No, cinema near
Don't wait
you.
till it goes on Netflix, because that
Yeah.
doesn't help.
No. And it's scarier, I think.
It
that-
is
I think
scarier
that-
in a cinema.
scarier.
And I think that scary movies, and this is scary at times, for sure. Scary movies are way better in cinema. Comedies and scary things, cinema all
And
the time.
the sound is great. The music is great, and it's really
And the
mixed
acting.
for all of that stuff around.
And the
the
acting.
sound and
Acting's
the
great.
music's great. The sound and the script and the direction is just
Acting
really
is
good.
Yeah.
off the
Yeah.